Goodbye.
So today is election day in Georgia to elect two senators, two of them running in a runoff that it was too close to count in the November election. So now they're doing the runoff with two different candidates. So tell us about the chaos that's going on in Georgia.
Okay, well, of course, the rumor of the week is that Trump has criminally threatened the Secretary of State of Georgia, and yet anyone who has any semblance of understanding of the law knows that nothing criminal took place in the call. Also, I didn't interpret. I've spent some time looking at transcripts of the recordings and reports of what happened. I think that if, again, I am not Trump's biggest supporter from the standpoint that I think he's put out a lot of inappropriate tweets. He's made a number of inappropriate statements. He's done some things that I think any competent advisor would like to take back. Having said that, this is probably one of those situations where Trump should not have been on the call, that he should have had the people that work with him on the call. I think they've already run it through this guy Raffensperger there in Georgia. And a couple things to appreciate about the distribution of the rumor. First of all, I think anyone should be honored to have a telephone conversation with the President of the United States. The fact that this was illegally recorded, something nobody's mentioned so far, and that it was distributed without the permission of the president and his party is something that's interesting. How the media has stepped over a very important aspect to this. This was not a public call; it was a private call among administrators, and there were other people for Trump on the call and other people for the Secretary of State of Georgia on the call, and that has not been talked about very much either. But I do not see it as a very productive call. Apparently, one of the things to appreciate is that Trump is not a Republican. He's actually supported Democrat candidates before running as a Republican, and I think he picked the slot that he thought he could fill best. I think he has tended more conservative in his later years, and so he felt he had a better fit there. But one of the problems you have is people keep saying, well, how can he be beating up on this guy who's a Republican, this Secretary of State of Georgia? Well, there's a couple issues here. First of all, Trump's not a Republican. He doesn't have a long history with the Republican Party. He has a short history. And not all Republicans like Trump because he is an outsider who's basically co-opted the party and made it the Trump party instead of the Republican Party with Trump as a candidate. And there's a big difference. So I don't think there's any love lost between him and this person. And basically, if you think about it, what he is saying is that this person has done an incompetent job of administering the election in Georgia. I wholeheartedly agree with that concept, given what I know about the disaster that the election was. And in fact, referring to the runoff elections today, based on what I've heard, only one of those two elections should be taking place. That Perdue should have won the general election and should be in the Senate, and Kelly Loeffler should be the one in the runoff. To have two runoffs is because of the fraud and the poor conduct of the election in Georgia. And I think it's a sad commentary that this in America in 2020 and 2021 cannot conduct an honest election. I mean, my goodness, this is not Tammany Hall in New York in the 1920s. This is not Venezuela. This is not Cuba, but it sure looks a lot like that when you see the mess of the November 3rd election and what's happening today in Georgia. So I have my fingers crossed, but we'll talk next week about what happens today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything we talk about is for today. It could change while we're talking. It could be changed.
Absolutely.